I'd rather go to jail than pay 2 years of alimony to my broke, cheating ex-wife. Now she's back, asking for a second chance. When they told me I had to pay 2 years of alimony to my cheating ex-wife after the divorce, I didn't think twice. I'd rather go to jail than support her. I'm angry, disappointed with everything, not just her, who cheated on me, but also with a system that, for some absurd reason, thinks it should reward her, or rather, protect her. After all, now that she won't have the stability I provided, someone needs to bankroll her, right? But isn't it her own fault for destroying all of that? I'll explain my situation so you can understand a bit of my frustration. I'm using a throwaway account because I feel like I only have one path left. I just want to vent. I refuse to back down. I was married to Julia for 6 years. We never had children, something that hurt me a lot at the time, but honestly, it makes me happy today. We don't have any permanent ties, and that brings me some peace. In the beginning, our relationship was good. We had our arguments, like any couple, but I believed we were a team. Julia wasn't working when I met her. She lived with her parents, who had a small store, and she said she helped them, though I never quite understood what she did. During the dating phase, this didn't bother me. I had a good job, lived alone, and could pay for everything without a problem. When we got married, nothing changed. She still didn't work, and I took on absolutely everything. The house, food, bills, clothes, everything. For the first few years, I did this happily. We traveled, went out often, went to the movies, restaurants, took small weekend trips. We lived well. We weren't rich, but we had a comfortable life, and she was never in need. Things started to change when we tried to have children and couldn't. I won't go into detail, but it was a difficult period. I was willing to try treatments, adoption, anything, but she started to withdraw. She didn't want to talk about the subject anymore and pulled further and further away. At first, I thought it was sadness, that she was depressed. I tried to encourage her to seek help, go out more. I even suggested she study or open a small business, something that would make her feel useful, reborn. But there was always an excuse. It's not the right time. I'm tired. I don't know what to do. What I didn't imagine was that her free time was being used to sleep with another man, and not in a hotel or at a friend's house. No, she brought him into my house, used my food, sat on my couch, and watched my TV with him. I found out the worst way possible. I had a work trip scheduled, but the event was canceled last minute. I came home the same day, thinking I'd surprise her, but the surprise was on me. I found the guy in his underwear, sprawled on the couch with a glass of wine and a plate of pasta on the table. Julia came out of the kitchen in an apron. When she saw me, her face completely lost color. I yelled, swore, and threw both of them out. He tried to say something, but I shoved him to the door. She cried, pleaded, said it was a mistake, that he was just a friend. A nearly naked friend in my house eating my food? Oh, sure. But the worst came later, the divorce process. That's when I realized how rotten this system is. Her lawyer, without the slightest embarrassment, demanded not only half of our assets, which fortunately were only some savings since the house and car were mine before the marriage, but also spousal support, or alimony. They wanted me to pay her monthly for 2 years so she could reorganize her life, claiming that I had made her economically dependent. Seriously? This is my fault now? She never worked in her life, and the responsibility is mine? I'm the one who has to support a woman who cheated on me and brought her lover into my house? My lawyer did what he could. We argued that we had no children, the marriage was relatively short, and she was young and capable of working. We also proved that part of the savings had already been used for renovations, and the rest was in a fund for my mother's retirement. Everything was documented, but it was useless. The judge sided with her. He said that despite the infidelity, the economic imbalance of the couple could not be ignored, and that she had failed to develop professionally and deserved time to re-enter the job market. The result? 2 years of alimony with a review every 6 months. I left the courtroom empty-handed and sick to my stomach. Not only did I have to split part of the savings, but I would also have to deposit money every month. In short, I would be supporting my ex-wife and probably her lover too, because I doubt that guy has 2 pennies to rub together. The first payment is due in a few days, and to be honest, I don't intend to pay. My lawyer insists I could be jailed for contempt of court, that it's not worth the risk, but I'm at my limit. I can't stand the idea of seeing that woman use my money while living with another man. I am seriously considering letting them arrest me, but first I need to prepare a few things. Not even my lawyer knows everything, because he doesn't know Julia like I do. I know exactly what she's like. She likes luxury, comfort, and the good life. She has no patience. If she doesn't receive anything for 1 or 2 months, she will look for another solution, another man. And when that happens, when she moves in with someone new, she loses the right to alimony. That's in the agreement. If she manages to stabilize herself sooner, the payment is canceled. Maybe it's a risky plan. Maybe I'll lose my freedom for a while. But if it means not giving her the pleasure of continuing to suck my life dry from the comfort of my couch, then it's worth it. I'll tell you what happens later. Update 1. This won't be a very long update. It's actually more of a goodbye. It's very likely that I won't be able to write for a while after this, because I'm going to jail. That's practically certain now. I used the last few days to prepare everything and ensure that Julia doesn't benefit from anything. I will not allow her to live comfortably with her new boyfriend using my money while I pay for the consequences of her betrayal.
And since I've already decided what I'm going to do, here are the final steps. First, I spoke with my boss. We've always had a relationship of respect and trust, so it wasn't hard to explain the situation. I told him everything, from the infidelity to the judge's decision, and said that I refused to pay that woman a single penny. He was outraged. He couldn't believe the law would favor someone who destroyed her own marriage for pure convenience. Then I asked him for a favor, to fire me. At first, he didn't understand. He said that if I needed time off, I could take a leave without having to go that far. But when I explained that if I appeared as unemployed before the judge, there would be less room for them to force me to pay alimony, he started to get it. I also told him that disobeying the court order could land me in jail for contempt. He was worried, of course, but I had everything planned. In my state, jail time for contempt in these cases is usually in minimum security facilities. Nothing violent, nothing dangerous. In a way, I saw it as a forced vacation. No bills, no phone, no need to see anyone. A place where I could work out, eat, sleep peacefully, and read as much as I wanted. I researched and found that the prison I would likely go to has one of the largest libraries in the system. So far from scaring me, the idea even seemed appealing. After talking to the company lawyer, my boss made me a proposal. He would fire me for misconduct, supposedly for aggressive behavior, with no severance pay or letter of recommendation. Everything had to look real. And when I got out of jail, he would give me my job back with a raise. It might sound absurd to accept something like this, but we trust each other. The important thing was that it looked authentic. If the judge suspected it was all a setup, the problem wouldn't just be jail. Heavy fines for fraud and aggravated contempt would follow. So we had to play the scene perfectly. And we did. I went into his office, pretending to be completely out of control. I slammed the door, started yelling, and insulted him. I said I was fed up with his hypocrisy. I banged on the table, threw my coffee mug on the floor. He maintained his composure, not reacting, following the script. When we opened the door, we continued screaming as if it were a real fight. He pushed me lightly and called security. Within minutes, 2 guards surrounded me and escorted me out. Most of the office watched the scene. Some were shocked, others whispered, thinking I had gone insane. Later, I learned he spread a controlled version of the story himself, saying I was going through a tough divorce and had lost control. We finished everything off with a bang. That same day, I withdrew the rest of the money I had in the account. It wasn't much, but I didn't want to leave anything there. I gave everything in cash to my mother with clear instructions. Don't deposit it anywhere. No banks, nothing in her name. Just keep the money safe. I also left instructions about the house, bills, and the basics for her to take care of while I was gone. After that, all that was left was to wait. A few days ago, Julia called me, furious. She said she had been patient for a week but couldn't wait any longer. She demanded the money, claiming she needed it urgently, and that if I didn't deposit it, she would go back to court. I just replied that she should do whatever she wanted, that I had no job, no income, and no means to pay what she was asking for. She didn't say anything else. She just hung up. Today, I received the summons. I have to appear before the judge tomorrow. My lawyer has prepared everything, though he is not at all happy with my decision. He asked me not to confront the judge, not to be arrogant, but to appear defeated, without spirit, weak, and without prospects, to say that I'm unemployed and unable to start over. He said the judge will probably suspect there's something behind it, but without concrete evidence, he can't do anything but sentence me for contempt, and that's what's going to happen. In the best case scenario, I'll be sentenced for 3 months. In the worst, maybe a little longer. It depends on the judge's mood, but I am prepared. I'm not afraid. I have already done everything I needed to do. So, if I don't show up for a while, you'll know why. See you, everyone. I'm taking a vacation. Update 2. 6 months and 3 weeks and the judge's verdict. Yes, it's been a long time since I posted here. From what I see, 6 months and 3 weeks have passed. I sincerely apologize for not coming back sooner and truly appreciate all the messages of support I received. It was fun reading the comments trying to guess what had happened. And while it would have been epic for me to stand before the judge, look him in the eye and say that I'd rather go to jail than give a penny to a cheating woman, the truth is that would have been a disaster. What really happened was much more restrained. On the hearing with the judge, I acted much calmer, thanks to my lawyer's guidance. I explained my entire situation. I said that I had gone through an emotional crisis with everything I had experienced, and that I still couldn't understand how, after everything I did for my wife, she was capable of cheating on me, and that now, on top of everything, they still expected me to support her. I said it destroyed me inside, that I felt broken, with no foundation. I also talked about the job. I said my boss had mocked my situation, that I lost control, confronted him, assaulted him, and that I was lucky he didn't press charges, but just fired me. I assured the judge that I had no income, that I was discouraged and totally shaken. I said everything sincerely, but I sensed he didn't fully believe it. He already seemed irritated with the case from the start. He said that none of that exempted me from fulfilling the obligations imposed by the sentence, and that the contempt was not justifiable. And when I repeated that I simply couldn't pay because I had no means, he frowned. In the end, with a dry and impatient tone, he declared that if I did not accept a symbolic or partial agreement, he would be forced to punish me for contempt.
Update 2. The judge, jail, and the end of alimony. I refused any kind of settlement. I said I wouldn't make promises I couldn't keep, that it would be useless. The man was silent for a few seconds, and then, visibly irritated, he announced the sentence: 6 months in jail. He added, "When you get out, don't think you're free. The case will be reevaluated." And so it was. I was arrested and taken to a minimum security unit in the state system. And honestly, it wasn't a traumatic experience. There were rules and schedules, sure, but everything was reasonable. Most of the people I met there were in for similar things: contempt, civil matters, nothing violent. I spent most of my time exercising. I ran, worked out, and kept my mind busy. I also dove into the facility's library, which was enormous. They had everything: novels, technical books, history, even trade manuals. I read a lot, studied, learned new things, and even got a small internal job helping to organize the library collection. The first month was difficult, mainly due to being away from the digital life, but after that it was almost a blessing. No one calls, no one demands anything, no one expects anything from you. I received visits from my mother, who always supported me, and my younger brother, as well as my lawyer, with whom I worked throughout this time, because the main goal was to prove that Julia was no longer financially dependent on me. And it worked. We discovered that she couldn't stand living with her parents for even 3 weeks after the divorce. The cohabitation was a disaster. She quickly moved into the lover's house, a guy named Marcos. With the help of a mutual friend, we managed to gather all the necessary evidence: social media posts, photos of the two traveling, witnesses who saw them together every day in the same apartment, records of bills in her name, everything. This friend even overheard her, drunk at a party, saying she couldn't wait for me to get out of jail so she could start really living and traveling with her new boyfriend. Unfortunately, she couldn't record it, but that wasn't even necessary. With all of this ready, on the day I was released from jail, I went straight to meet my boss. And, as promised, he was waiting for me, new contract in hand. But before returning to work, we had to face the judge again. This time was different. My lawyer wasted no time. He presented all the evidence: photos, videos, testimonies, records, screenshots. He showed that Julia was living with another man, that she wasn't destitute, that her partner was paying the expenses, and that they had been a stable couple for months. The judge, with a tired and impatient expression, reviewed everything in silence and finally decided in our favor. He ruled that I no longer had any obligation to support her, as it was proven that she was no longer financially dependent on me. It is true that he imposed the payment of some fees and administrative costs, but honestly, I didn't care as long as the money wasn't going to her. It was fine. Julia was furious. She started shouting that it was unfair, that she was being left helpless. The judge looked her straight in the eyes and said, word for word, "Madam, you are not a child nor an invalid. You already have someone taking care of you. What you need now is to find a job." And that is how it all ended. In 2 days, I am officially going back to work. I already signed the new contract. I feel refreshed, at peace, and satisfied. I regret nothing. And honestly, what I liked most was seeing the look of frustration plastered on her face as she left the courtroom. Will she finally work now? I doubt that. Update 3. The classic return of the remorseful ex. Some of you seem like real psychics. Many told me in the comments that Julia would come looking for me again, that it was only a matter of time. And guess what? A month later, she actually showed up. It was a random night. Someone knocked on the door, and when I opened it, there she was, with a look like a remorseful puppy. What made me laugh the most was the fact that she brought a carry-on suitcase, as if she truly believed I would not only let her in, but would receive her with open arms. I didn't even let her speak. I just said, "I'm not interested," and slammed the door in her face. She insisted, knocked again. I opened it again and said, "Look, I'm not religious, so I'm not interested in hearing the word," and I closed it again. She knocked a third time, now harder, yelling that she just wanted to talk. I had even thought of a few more sarcastic responses to give, but honestly, it wasn't worth spending energy on a dead issue. I ignored her. She stayed outside talking to herself. She said she now understood her mistake, that she was remorseful, that she never wanted me to go to jail, and that it was my fault for not wanting to dialogue. Since I didn't respond, she continued, saying she was having problems, that the lover had left her, and that she just wanted to fix things. She didn't use those exact words, but the message was clear. She wanted me to support her again. I turned off the living room light, poured a drink, and went to watch a series. When I looked an hour later, she was gone. Out of curiosity, I called the friend who had helped us with the evidence in the case, just to find out what had happened. And according to her, Marcos, the lover, started losing patience as soon as he found out that there would not be any more alimony money coming in. It seems his plan was to live comfortably on my money. But when he discovered that the judge had ended the payments, and that now he would have to fully bankroll her, he simply kicked her out. After that, Julia tried to get help from some friends, but no one wanted to get involved in the chaos her life had become. Not even her own parents would take her back home. That's why she came after me, because she had nowhere else to go. Anyone with a shred of common sense would have understood it was time to work, look for something, anything. But Julia and common sense never got along. Not even 2 weeks later, and I had another court notification in my mailbox. Once again, they were calling me to court. Julia had filed a new lawsuit against me. I couldn't understand how she had the nerve to do this, and even more, how she paid the lawyer who accepted such an absurd case. On the day of the hearing, the judge didn't even hide his weariness. He listened to her request, leafed through the documents, looked at Julia for a second, and literally said, "This request is ridiculous. You and the petitioner no longer have any legal, economic, or personal ties, and apparently you believe the judicial system exists for your use and abuse." But the best was yet to come. The judge not only dismissed the case, but also applied a $500 fine for trying to take advantage of the system. Julia was silent. She didn't even try to argue. And that's how everything ended. Today, I can say that I am finally at peace. I'm back to my routine, working calmly, sleeping well, and I don't have anyone draining my energy or my wallet. The only doubt that remains is, will she finally work, or will she try to find another man to support her? If it's the second option, what exactly does she have left to offer at this point in her life? Well, that's not my problem anymore. Reddit comment of the day. The classic return of the remorseful ex with a carry-on suitcase and a face that just wants to talk. It's amazing how quickly the survival instinct kicks in when the wallet gets tight, isn't it? The guy went to jail, was humiliated, and yet she thought all she had to do was knock on the door and everything would go back to normal. At least the judge did what a lot of people wanted. He put an end to this soap opera and even gave her a small payback. Moral of the story? Karma might take its time, but when it arrives, it collects with interest, inflation, and court fees.